In the world of dual citizenship and this whole citizenship space, a question I often think about is there ever a time when you have too many passports? And in today's video, I'll be going over what I personally think about having too many citizenships. What are the benefits of having as many citizenships as you possibly can? But also, what are the drawbacks of doing that? Well, for me, when I think about someone who has multiple citizenships, perhaps over 5 or 10, one thing that I like to think about is, alright, at what point do they become redundant, right? Because let's say, for example, that you are completely diversified all over the world and you have a European Union passport as well. Fine, cool. Let's say you have an Italian passport, hypothetically. Alright, is getting that Portuguese passport going to be that beneficial if you already are an EU citizen? Now, okay, if you want to live in Portugal, you've lived in Portugal for 5 to 7 years, alright, I understand that. Sure. However, if you start getting multiple European Union passports and they're pretty much all the same on the international sector, okay, I understand it. Yeah, okay, you never know if one will leave or one will leave the Schengen area or whatever, right? Cool. But at what point does it start becoming that you have more than you need, right? So 3 European Union passports, I think, is fine. You know, maybe a good combo like Portugal, Italy, and maybe Czech Republic, something like that. Cool. But, you know, if you start getting 5, 7, also, you know, at what point do you start running out of countries? But also, at that point, you start asking, okay, why do you need that many passports? Is it just, I mean, it's a cool thing to collect, sure, but, you know, do you really want to be travelling with 20 passports in your pocket? Probably not. So that is one major downside, is you're going to be looking in your pockets going, okay, where's this passport, where's this passport? Because, you know, you'd probably want to travel with all of them. And also, this is not just for Europe, this is for all over the world. You know, let's say you want access to Latin America. All right, cool. Maybe you want to live in Argentina and a country like Brazil. Okay, I understand at that point why you'd want an Argentinian passport and a Brazilian passport in order to ensure that you can live in both countries for as long as you want. You know, would you want all of the Latin American passports, like a Venezuelan passport? Probably not. So I do think that there is a such thing as having too many passports, but it's not really the end of the world. I think it only starts getting really extreme if you have over 10 or 20 passports, because at that point you start asking, okay, what is the actual point? What are you gaining by that every one passport you get? If you are already completely diversified, you have access to Latin America, Central America, the Caribbean, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania, and all these other places in the world. At what point do you start thinking, okay, cool, yeah, I might have a Palauan passport. Is that Micronesian passport going to be any beneficial to me? You know, at that point you start asking, okay, what is the actual purpose of me getting this passport? Okay, I already have access to Australia. Should I get the New Zealand passport because of the Trans-Tasman area? Yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't mind a New Zealand passport in the future, right? But, you know, if I'm that diversified, would I even bother getting them all? And also, for me, this is sort of a weird point to bring up, but for me, a major problem and a major risk that you could find potentially with having by being a passport maximalist is, you know, let's say something that happened in my case, that one country cuts a tax treaty with another country, and you have to choose at that point, okay, which country do you want to maintain your passport in? Which country do you want to live in? Which country do you want to maintain residence, you know, whatever scenario it might be for you. You know, let's say you are a Slovenian citizen and a Italian citizen or something. And let's just say, for whatever reason, Italy cuts off their tax treaty with Slovenia. You know, at what point do you start thinking, okay, which passport would I want to keep? So that is a bit of a horrendous scenario that could happen. It's a very rare scenario. I think it's only happened once or twice before. But it's still a horrendous scenario to go through, where you're a citizen of both countries and they cut the tax treaty with each other. That's just horrendous, in my opinion. But other than that, I think being a passport maximalist is actually quite a good thing, because a lot of people do it for different reasons. You often hear about people doing it for tax purposes or for business purposes, but actually one thing that's overlooked is that for family purpose, right? So let's say you want to have kids in the future, cool, and you want to ensure that your kids have as many options around the world as possible. All right, you having multiple passports is going to have that option available to them. If you have a kid who is European but they want to study in Latin America, they can do that if you have a Latin American passport. Vice versa, if you are Latino, you want to ensure that your kids can study in Europe, maybe in a place like Germany where uni is free, then having that European passport is going to be beneficial. In conclusion, do I think having as many passports as you can might be a drawback? Yes. Do I see that it's also a benefit? Absolutely. I think being a passport maximalist is something that is actually a really good thing to be. However, at what point, again, I don't think there's an exact number, but at some point I do think that having all these passports does start to become a little bit redundant. Let me know how many passports you would personally like to have. Let me know down in the comments below.